or joined with Jordan Kent here momentarily, joining us on the River Islands guest line. And he's the voice of the Valkyries, KPIX, Channel 5, over at CBS. He does a lot of work with CBS play-by-play. Real quick, Joe, I looked at this guy's profile, and Jordan, good morning, Joe Spadoni alongside Joe Shasky. You have got to be one of the most interesting people, just from a background perspective, born in Saudi Arabia, drafted into the NFL,
wow,
6th round pick in 2007, played at Oregon, play-by-play, like I said, for the Valkyries. You've done it for the Portland Trail Blazers. You call high-level gaming tournaments for Nintendo. Like, dude, you move over Pitbull. Jordan Kent is Mr. Worldwide, dude. Like, I don't even know where to begin. I kind of want to start with the NFL. You were a former NFL wide receiver?
I was. And so, first of all, thanks for having me this morning, gentlemen. It's great to be here. So the NFL story basically came, I was a basketball and track guy my whole life. Started off doing those two sports at Oregon and quickly realized you're not going to have a future if you're A, shooting guard that can't shoot, and B, track is a sport where you really just can't get faster. Either you're born with it or you aren't. And when you're half a second away from the Olympics, that's a chasm of a difference to try and make up. So I picked up football in college just thinking, well, I'm tall and fast. I'm not really strong, but maybe a team will take a flyer on me someday down the road. And, you know, it worked out. It was an awesome experience. Seahawks picked me up. I was on their practice squad the first year, played about 10 games the second year, played 9 games with the St. Louis Rams to date myself the third season. And I just tell people it was a incredible temp job just to learn more about the league, and little did I realize I'd have this play-by-play future, and now that has just helped tremendously whenever I call football games as well too. So really great experience. It feels like a completely different lifetime ago, though, I'll tell you that much.
I mean, Joe, this guy's just dropping. He's like, a temp job, just being an NFL wide receiver. It's just, just like a cup of coffee in the morning. Incredible.
Jordan, I've obviously been watching the Valks this year, and you stand out. And I'm being real here. Like, you have tremendous presence on the broadcast, and you and Morgan have fantastic chemistry, but like you've got great pipes and you understand timing and everything. And I think you've really done a great job of capturing kind of the essence of what's going on inside that arena. And that's the thing that I've really appreciated about just your coverage of the team this year and the job that you've been doing. The other night, I mean, look, the last 3 minutes was not great. But, like, as the whole place was going bananas for what they did from, like, the end of the second quarter through the fourth quarter, I mean, you're like, this place is going crazy. And I'm not even giving it justice. I think you do a really good job making the person on their couch feel like they're inside the arena. And that's, like, the highest compliment I can have for someone as a sports junkie like myself.
Well, thank you for the compliments, and I'm glad the check I wrote you got to you before you had me on. So appreciate the kind words right there. But listen, the thing I love about play-by-play is it's such an art, and I think that's why when I made the pivot from studio to play-by-play, it hooked me, and I decided this is the track I want to be on for the rest of my career. And number one, it starts with working with great people. I cannot give Morgan enough praise because I don't think people realize how hard that analyst chair is. A lot of people think, oh, you just slide in a former player. She has to respond to questions from me or questions about the game in real time incredibly quickly. I'm more so reacting to action I'm seeing. And so she makes my job very easy first. But then secondly, you mentioned the energy, and the benefit of doing these national games for CBS is that I've been to essentially every arena in the league, save for Seattle and Phoenix. And I tell people, while there's certainly some teams that do a great job, don't get me wrong, Portland, Indiana, New York, those are some really terrific spots, Las Vegas. Ball Hall is just a completely different tier than all of them. And being able to encapsulate the energy in the arena and, to your point, make that person at home on the couch or sitting down having a bite to eat watching the game feel like they're there is really the honor I feel like I have and the responsibility I have. And the games are just so fun. As a basketball sports junkie, I tell a lot of people that maybe haven't followed the W that closely that this is fantastic basketball. The 40-minute games are perfect. The teams play hard. It's great team ball. There's no sticky ISO play that kind of bogs down the flow of the game. It's fast-paced up and down. It's just a great atmosphere. And so you mix that in with the best home crowd in the W, and it just makes every game that you call electric. And I'm really grateful for the opportunity.
Yeah, and I think you've done a great job capturing the essence of the connection between the fans and Kaitlyn Chen right now. I mean, she has been just an absolute lightning rod, and everybody, like, she just oozes off the TV, and I can only imagine what it's like in the arena when she's kind of going off. I mean, I'm going way back in the time machine, but there's something about the Bay Area and these undersized backup point guards who can also close games. Earl Boykins back in the day was just a huge fan favorite for Warrior fans. And I had used the comp, and it's as a loose one, but I was like, hey, she's kind of like their Payton Pritchard, where she can step back, knock down a three occasionally, but it's just the frenetic pacing, the understanding of how to get this team a good shot, can take it to the hole and finish amongst the redwoods at times, and the way that she feeds off the crowd and the crowd feeds off her energy. I mean, honestly, she's been one of the most fun things about the team this year, and the way you're nailing her on the floor is it's been fun to monitor.
I completely agree with you. It's funny you mentioned Payton Pritchard. I called his state championship game when he was a freshman in high school, and I've just seen his career grow. When I lived in Oregon, I remember seeing him working out at the same sport club that I went to and everything. So it's funny how this thing can come full circle sometimes. But I think you're absolutely right. I think Kaitlyn's story is one fans appreciate, right? Where you're a late round draft pick. She was there at the draft to really support her teammates, and boom, all of a sudden you get drafted and on the roster, off the roster, didn't play a ton last year. And then I think her ability, her quick step to just get by her defender and get into the paint, or sometimes she does a wonderful job of getting to that low block area, right? And I call it the take me back in time with the hook shot finishes. Her ability to finish, we've seen this on the floor, has improved dramatically from the early part of the season to now. And it's almost one of those things where when you get those reps in real time in a game and you get used to finding those crafty angles to finish high off of, it's terrific. And I think also just her moxie. I think there's a lot of bench players that will come into a game and be a little indecisive about when do I attack, when do I let the game come to me. She is all gas, no brakes, but very wise decision-making. And I called a couple of her games at UConn her senior year, and I just remember the floor general that she was and seeing her on the floor with Fudd and Beckers and just the way that she commanded the offense. She's a very cerebral player, but then you have that infusion of energy, whether it's with the plays and the smile after everything or being in the starting lineup and doing the handshakes with everybody. I think she might encapsulate the chemistry of this team and the uniqueness of Valhalla more than any player individually on this team.
Jordan Kent joining us here on the Morning Roast, Valkyries TV play-by-play, former wide receiver for the Rams and Seahawks. And the Valkyries got their 9-game winning streak snapped against the Washington Mystics heading into the All-Star break. But what is the biggest question, Jordan, I guess, facing this team as we come out of the All-Star break in about a week from now? Is it just whether or not they could hang with the Aces and Lynx, who are the only two teams ahead of them in the standings?
When you talk to the team, they mention there's defensive consistencies that they still want to achieve, and that's crazy to think because of how impressive the numbers are. But I think if you're just looking up and down the roster, this is a well-balanced roster. We know it's the highest scoring bench in the league. I think what you've noticed maybe in this loss against the Mystics and against the Aces, if there's any type of weakness with this defense, it might be against really talented one-on-one post players, and especially teams that are deep at that position.
The two bigs killed them the other night.
Yeah, and nobody's stopping Asia Wilson. And really the other night, too, it's Washington had one of their most efficient shooting games of the season. I mean, this is a team that was shooting under 28% from three over their last 5 games. So, of course, you want them shooting threes, but then they shot near 40% from three that game and almost hit as many threes in that game as they did in a quadruple overtime win. And so, they just hit a couple more shots as well, too. But, yes, when you look at the depth of the Mystics at the post position and the 3 different players they can just throw the ball into and say, go one-on-one and get a bucket. Same thing with the Aces. And I think with Minnesota is just so deep on both ends. I think they defend just like the Valkyries do. And then offensively, when they've got Olivia Miles, Courtney Williams, McBride, and now you throw in Nafisa, that's a lot of talent. But let's keep this in mind now with the Valkyries. There's not a whole lot you need to fix. Their 2 losses to the Aces were, I believe, within 36-hour windows of playing the Lynx. And so the schedule wasn't doing them any favors when they played against these teams. And they had fourth quarter leads. And so for a team like Golden State that shoots the three as much as they do, it is just going to come down to, are your shots falling on that particular night? And are you being able to protect the ball? And so I think the blueprint is there for Golden State for the rest of the season. It's just, as they've said, how do we play a little bit more consistently with our defensive assignments? Now, we don't know what the particular X's and O's are for any game, right? Because that game plan is going to change according to the opponent. But they're the ones that can tell you after a game when they watch the film, hey, did we do what we were supposed to be doing consistently enough throughout the game? And it sounds very elementary, but that's the difference between championship level teams and teams that aren't, is that they execute their game plan play after play at a much more consistent clip than anybody else.
You know, I'm watching Gabby, and I didn't know a whole lot about her coming into the year in just terms of like what she is as a WNBA player. And like I was texting with all the guys, and she's so athletic, like almost like a young D Wade, young Jimmy Butler. Like you look up and she's jumping passing lanes. She gets a bunch of rebounds. She's not like an ISO scorer per se, but you look up and like, oh, 15 points, 17 points. Like she's just a very unique player. I can't I'm looking for like an NBA player comp or someone like her. She might be one of the best athletes in the league though. Like just raw athleticism, get up and down the floor, can guard anyone. I don't know. I'm very intrigued by who she is as a player, and I'm having a hard time finding like a player comp. Do you have one for her?
You know, it's hard to make one for her because I think anytime you try to compare to the NBA, I think the two games play completely different. I think there's so much more ISO play in the NBA where players get to showcase that ISO talent. I think with me, I love Gabby Williams, first of all. As a defensive-minded player myself growing up, there's so many little things that she does that don't show up in the stat sheet that I appreciate. For example, if you just get a chance on the defensive end to watch her for 10 to 20 possessions, she doesn't get screened very often. And I know that is not something that is going to make the and one mixtapes, right? It's fighting over screens. But there was a possession against Washington. We called it during the broadcast. Her ability to not get screened on the wing by a big and stay on the ball handler completely blew up what Washington was trying to do. And then it forces a terrible shot late in the shot clock. That's just as good as a block shot or a steal, in my opinion. There's not that many players that can do that. And then also the number of deflections. I think it's the stat that needs to be tracked next if they're ever going to start putting another stat in the box score, because that is just such a disruptive skill set. Deflections that interrupt the flow of the offense. And her switch ability to defend 1 through 4, to be honest, is incredible. And then, yes, on the offensive end, you know, the Valkyries were wondering who was going to be the ace offensively. When you need a bucket and the shot clock's winding down, who do you go to? She has shown that ability more and more this year and has told Coach Nakase she wants to shoulder more of that load. And I think as this team continues to just build upon their chemistry in the offensive end, you're going to see that because she is somebody that can take you downhill. She is somebody that can shoot a three in your face. She's a 3-level scorer. And that's what you need for those potent scorers late in the game to go and get a bucket for you. So she is, in my opinion, the number one offseason acquisition this year in the W. I think you can put Angel Reese up there as well, too, as far as just players that have stepped in, contributed, and have impacted their team. Jessica Shepard as well. But she is the perfect fit for Golden State. Of any player that was available out there this year, the perfect fit. And I think that's why they were so thrilled to get here. And you're seeing why it has already paid off so many dividends so early.
Yeah, and it felt like she flipped the game. The second quarter was just teetering, and she made that interception on that lob pass. And like almost like a football play. I think you said Odell Beckham. Maybe I'm misremembering it, but no, it was incredible. And it like the whole momentum of the second quarter flipped right then and there, and it felt like they carried that into the third quarter. And it was just an incredible play by her. I love it. Now let me ask you this, because this is something we've said with the Warriors. Being deep is great. It's awesome, but it does make it challenging. Given each night you got to kind of play the hot hands and the hot combinations. And when you maybe do not score for a couple of minutes late in the game, people are like, maybe you should have gone to this combination of players. Playing 9, 10, 11 every night, is it more difficult than it seems? Because I do think it's great to have so many players. That second unit has been awesome for them. But I do think it presents some challenges in some of these tighter games because you're always kind of second-guessing yourself on combinations.
I could see the thought process behind that. I think it comes down to the buy-in from the players. And fortunately for Golden State, they've built an incredible locker room. The chemistry top to bottom is arguably the best in the league. And I don't think you haven't heard a single rumbling from any player this entire year about, I got 3 minutes this game. And look at Kaitlyn Chen, right? Played, I think, 4 to 5 minutes the first game against Washington, 2 points, comes back and plays 23. And so I think with these rotations, you can see it pretty early in the game what rotations and matchups are going to work. And then because you have that flexibility on your roster, you can decide who to quote unquote close with based upon who's playing well. And that works well because you have such buy-in from the players and they understand their roles and they understand how this works. Where listen, because they have such a deep bench, you might have nights where you're only going to play 6 to 12 minutes, but you also have nights where you might play 18 to 22 versus you just getting 11 minutes every night and that's it. And your touches are going to be limited. So because of the players' ability to stay ready and to understand their roles, I think this deep rotation works, and you couldn't say that for every team in the W.
Jordan Ken joining us here, Valkyries TV play-by-play, CBS Sports, former wide receiver for the Rams and Seahawks. All right, Jordan, we going to see LeBron courtside with Joe Lacob one of these weeks, hanging out at a Valkyries game? What do you think? You coming to the Bay?
I have no clue. I have no idea. I mean, him and I have such different lives at 41 right now, I'll tell you that much.
Oh
so, I mean, for him, you see, he's going to the Heat, he's going to the Cavs. I mean, at the end of the day, I think it comes down to what he wants, right? Does he want a situation where it's just an enjoyable locker room and he's enjoying playing basketball and it's his farewell tour, whether it's this year or the next 3? Okay, then make your choice on that. If you're trying to eke out one more championship, okay, there's probably some possibilities of quote unquote an easier route on the East if you go and join a couple of those teams because you don't have San Antonio and Oklahoma City right there possibly. So I'm not sure. I do know it's interesting because the pressure that the delay in the decision makes is all the TV networks have to figure out what games they want for primetime, right? And they're going to base it upon where he goes. And normally they have their schedules finished by, I believe, the end of August, going back to my days with the Blazers. I think they just want a decision here soon.
Adam Silver is not happy, Jordan. Adam Silver is on record. Yeah. He is not happy.
Exactly. So, listen, if he decides to come to Golden State, I mean, how amazing would that be just to see Steph and LeBron together, two of the greatest players of all time, and especially our generation on the floor. I think we saw that during the Olympics and the magic the two had. And I think that speaks volumes that with all the young players on that roster, those were two of your players on the floor to close things out. So, yeah, it'd be a lot of fun for everybody if he joined the Warriors. But I think at the end of the day, LeBron's going to do what LeBron's going to do, and he knows himself better than anybody else. And I think wherever he goes, at the end of the day, we should just celebrate what we've been able to see with him because he truly is one of the greatest athletes of all time and one of the greatest basketball players of all time. And I think his longevity is probably some of the most impressive longevity of any athlete in basketball. And that should be celebrated for what he's done.
Jordan, I was a fan of your dad, and I'm a big fan of yours, and I just want to say keep doing what you're doing on behalf of everyone in the Bay Area. Like, you're crushing it, dude.
And let's do it again soon, man.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Thank you guys so much for having me. You enjoy the rest of the week ahead, and let's absolutely do it again sometime.
Hell yeah.
Right? There you go. That's Jordan Ken, Valkyries television play-by-play for CBS, KPIX, former wide receiver for the Rams and Seahawks. And Joe, you just go to everyone, you go to their Wikipedia page or whatever.